The Westford Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. This meeting is being broadcast live by Westford Cable Access TV and recorded for playback online. Your participation in this meeting is your consent to your likeness and audio being captured for the cable, whatever. For being used and recorded, rebroadcasted by Westford Cable Access TV. The first item on our agenda at 7 p.m. is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Matt?
Just that with the vacancy on the commission, we've added a QR code for the volunteer activity form on the back of the agenda. And to your idea, we can get a link on the homepage, or on the commission's homepage, so interested residents can submit the VAF as
Citizens activity form?
volunteer.
Yeah.
I don't know, at some point, but the URL still is CAF. They haven't changed that.
Do any members of the audience have something for open forum? Okay, moving on to our next agenda item. It's a continued public hearing and issue order of conditions for the Westford Department of Public Works for the Plain Road Sidewalk Project Phase 2.
So no, so as the TEC was unable to finish up the plan set for the commission's meeting, but also on last Thursday I sent the email that was included in the commission's packet to the directors of the Westford Land Preservation Foundation, kind of outlining what's proposed, kind of the benefits of the revised plan, and also provide some background and basis for the work as respect to the commission, the work being proposed as a reserved right under section 4.4, I guess.
You didn't put that in our packet?
No, it was just in the electronic.
Okay.
And with me getting it out last Thursday, didn't want to immediately follow up with a, hey, I sent this to you, please give me an answer. So, with kind of TEC not having plans finalized and this being sent a week ago, the engineering department was certainly amenable to continuing this 2 weeks to the commission's next meeting.
Okay.
If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to address or can certainly relay them to the engineering department. Also included was a revised set of findings and special conditions. Most notably was a special condition included about the vegetated areas associated with the proposed entrance as being maintained but not kind of lawn, have it be a naturalized kind of ground cover.
So do any commissioners have any comments?
They have 30 days to respond, right?
Well, and so this was kind of, this gets into the minutia of where, in my opinion, this isn't, where this is a reserved right under the maintenance of presently existing roadways, paved or unpaved, located on substantially in their present condition or is reasonably necessary. The notice and approval of the grantee is only for the construction of new roadways, enlarging of existing roadways, and the paving of existing unpaved roadways. And where this is, Well, it's presently pavement. We're actually reducing the impervious area. We're reducing the pavement. I don't think that we need, in my opinion, I don't think we need the notice and approval from them. But being, as, a healthy partnership with them, kind of explain to, give them an opportunity to kind of see what, because we didn't involve them earlier on and, we wanted to kind of get a,
I think telling them is fine.
yep, and,
Waiting for it is necessary.
and again, check in another couple weeks prior to the commission's next meeting, to kind of see if they do have any questions, see if they have any comments. But, also allow a little bit of time, And
Sure.
I sent it Thursday before
Yeah.
a holiday weekend, so.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 25th?
The June 11th.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing till June 11th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our next agenda item, it's a certificate of compliance request for 73 and Moore Road.
This request was presented at the commission's last meeting. The only action item was that the Chinese silvergrass that was planted be removed on yesterday. I received photos from the applicant's representative that the grasses had been removed and blueberry bushes had been planted in place. As that was the last outstanding item of the commission's review, I would recommend issuance of the certificate of compliance.
Can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 334-1776?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I'm going to abstain
okay.
because I missed the last meeting.
So moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, it's a minor modification request for Thompson, 18 Dana Drive.
Hi. Hi there. Good to see you guys again. Yes, so we are looking just to. Oh, sorry, Christina Thompson. We are looking to fence in our yard, and Matt, I believe you have the drawings. Yep, there we go. So ultimately, what we wanted to do was, I think this is a little pointer. Yeah. Just move the fencing from the side of our home out down the property line and kind of around. Doesn't impact anything really. There's no trees, there's no bushes. It essentially follows our current mulch line in order to kind of, put the pool in there, but also we have this weird little walking path behind our house down here. And we do get people that will kind of cut through our yard. So just additional protection from that. And yeah, that's the ask.
So this is all in previously disturbed area.
Yes, this is within the existing lawn,
Yep.
or at the edge of the existing lawn.
And what's the closest distance of the fence to the wetland?
It would probably be this
Pretty
point
close.
here. It ties into the existing back of the shed.
Yep,
The shed was mentioned in the, not in the meeting packet, but in the online packet. You had
Yes, I had my kind of
it's
comments.
only like 12 feet or something from the wetland, about, from the edge of the wetlands.
Yeah, so, my question, and, certainly for the commission's consideration, was, is there any areas that could be, allowed to be renaturalized, especially within the 30-foot no disturb? Again, I certainly understand kind of where what they're looking to do. But at the same time, the 30-foot no disturb, certainly has been altered. The house was constructed prior to the town's adoption of the setbacks. So, it's kind of weighing all those different
So
factors.
the shed was there before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't recall when the shed was installed per the property assessor's card, but
We've lived there for 8 years. It's been there the whole time.
So it's currently maintained, it's being mowed. Is it being mowed beyond the area where the fence is going to be located?
No.
Closer to the wetland, if so,
no, it would be enclosing the existing lawn area.
So then that tree line that aligns with the front corner of the shed is not an accurate,
Tree line.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably an overhang of the,
okay.
there's mature vegetation through here, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's understory.
So you want it at the edge of the area that's being maintained?
Correct.
And the intent was to come get the commission's input before,
And the type of fence?
It would be a vinyl 6-foot fence.
But a solid fence, not split
Yes,
rail? Or
correct.
So that would inhibit, animals or whatever from going back and forth?
Yes, it does, the property to the rear that does, that contains the wetlands and the trail that was mentioned is, I think, an open space associated with the construction of this subdivision. So it's, there's also Mystery Spring, I think you can get to Mystery Springs back there as well. So there's a large open, there's probably 100+ acres of land back there. So enclosing this portion, I don't think necessarily inhibits the wildlife corridor substantively. And again, as I was mentioning, the applicant asked about this, and before having engineers, redraw plans, wanted to get the commission's input, to, be financially judicious here.
What's the vegetation like between where the fence will be and the edge of the wetlands? I'm thinking about
Yeah,
trees growing up, large trees dropping branches.
for sure. There's one large tree that's about like right here on the corner of the property. It kind of goes between us and the neighbors. It's a big one. Outside of that, this is all really just bushes here.
Okay, so it's not pines or oaks that in 10 or 15
No.
years are gonna be whacking your fence?
No, just this one little corner here is
Okay.
that one big one, but everything else is pretty far back. I would say up here to the walking trail is all really just short bushes and like one little skinny tree.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what is stored in the shed?
For all of our like we have 2 different lawnmowers, and then because there's a sliding door here, so that's how we get the lawnmower out, which is why I wanted to go to the back corner. And then just like miscellaneous outside tablewares and ladders, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking, things like fuel products,
No.
fertilizers.
Nope.
No, okay. So just the fuel that's in the lawnmower?
Correct.
Okay.
Which we empty at the end of the cycle,
Okay.
the season.
So getting back to your first point, if we do this, I wouldn't want it to be that in the future we were trimming or doing whatever to maintain the viability of the fence being where it is.
And it sounds like it's all
Yeah.
lower story
That's what I'm
vegetation,
hearing,
The
except
only-
for potentially a tree or something,
which is all,
There's
off
that
in the
one corner, and then there's like large trees way back here.
Yeah,
But they're
okay.
they're pretty far.
Mhm. I mean, I just, remembering people who've come to us because trees are dropping on their shed.
Yeah,
So-
or my fence or this,
I mean,
or,
knock
now
on
you're
wood,
like,
yeah,
well, you put it way
8 years.
back there, and now all of a sudden, we've
Yep.
got to maintain around it to preserve it.
Yep.
So the shed is too close to the wetlands, but what's the plan for behind the fence? Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Just let it grow?
Yep. everything over here is literally just those little plants that turn into like that pink thing on the top. I don't know what they're called, but that's all what's behind the shed. There's like no trees or anything there.
Nothing,
I
not
am,
orchids, right, not ladies clippings.
you know, I don't know what they are, but they're just like forked green things.
And Matt, if we do this, you know, your justification of being able to put the fence up here because plenty of wildlife corridor and, you know, abutting open space
Yeah.
would be, you know, just, but I wouldn't want somebody to think, okay, you know, this is now the new standard. Well, you know, relief was given because of.
Yep.
Relief for what? For this fence being to the ground?
And being as close to the buffer as it is.
The fence or the shed, or both?
Oh, the fence. I can't do anything about the shed. That shed is pre-existing.
We don't, do we know that?
I can, again, where they're asking for, where this was reviewed as part of the notice of intent process, you know, I think it was raised. I don't think there was any specific special condition related to it. Again, I can certainly try and find the date of its record of installation on the assessor's property card. That's at least, you know, some means
Visible
to.
from above photos, maybe?
Yeah, I can certainly try.
If it is before, that's great, but otherwise, we made the family down on Nab Lake had to move their shed because it was too close to the wetland line, and this is 10 feet.
Yeah.
We made them move it 30 to 30.
So, right.
So unless this is before Wetland Protection Act and our bylaw, we should be doing the same thing here to be consistent.
Weren't they replacing it?
What, the one on the app?
Yeah.
I don't know, but.
I think they
And
put,
that was
I think they
the-
put
Put
it
it too
in
close.
and that
Or
was.
they did put it too close,
and we
right,
made 'em move
but
it
they
to it.
put it there, you know, it
They
wasn't
put-
like it was pre-existing.
But also, did they put it there without a filing?
I think that was it as well. So I can certainly look back to that one. But
Well, I don't
to
know if
Jim's
was
point, I
filing-
can,
Was there
Yeah.
a filing for this one?
Yes, well, and that's,
We don't know.
that becomes the other question.
It probably wasn't a filing, but did it predate the laws and bylaws?
I can certainly take a look.
Okay.
Yeah,
From what I understand, our previous owners of the house were pretty good about following all the rules for everything. But yeah, like I said, the shed's been there since we bought the house.
and I think because you're doing the fencing around it, it's not like you're only fencing one side of your yard so that wildlife could get in and then couldn't get out.
Correct.
Your fence is actually keeping it out.
Yes.
And then there's lots of habitat off-site. Okay, so do we need to kind of
So if
have a sense of the,
if the commission is okay with, you know, kind of the drawings as proposed, I can get a engineered plan showing it, you know, and then the commission can vote to approve, you know, that at a subsequent, you know, at the next meeting, just so, you know, the plan of record shows everything that's being done and we're not, you know, trying to compile back and forth across, you know, multiple plans. So, if,
you'll get the background information.
yep,
on the
I can
shed as
certainly
well.
find that for Jim.
Okay,
So if everybody's okay with it, we can, okay.
Okay.
have
You
the-
okay with that, Jim?
Yes.
okay. Moving on to our 7:10.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of public hearing and issue order of conditions for Yang, 88 Padmuck Road.
Hello.
Following up from the commission's last meeting, I did reach out to the assistant director of the health department with respect to kind of the footings of the proposed deck as they are, or as the deck is shown overhanging the tank. She did provide some guidance as with respect to kind of footings being preferentially 10 feet, you know, at least 5, but decks going on top of the septic components in the event they need to. So, and with, I know that it kind of being a future project, but what you're filing once now with the commission, was able to include a special condition, where are you? No. Number 36, footings for the deck shall not be located on a septic system component. As advised by the agents of the Board of Health, footings should be at least 5 feet off the tank and force main 10 feet preferred. Prior to submitting the building permit application, the architectural and/or engineering plans for the deck shall be submitted to the commission or its agent for review and approval. So kind of setting up the process. In 2 years, we have, a deck that's proposed to be constructed. We want to make sure that, and again, the health department, as part of any building permit application for something like this, would end up looking at its relationship to the septic component. So it's
They build it at their own risk.
right, but we have enough. This is kind of just preempting, prior to filing the building permit application, and so again, certainly that was kind of my intention with that. And the plan was updated to show the approximate locations of the plantings as directed from as a result of the enforcement order, the green circles and the letter key corresponds with the planting schedule on the subsequent pages. But included in the draft findings and special conditions was a reference to this unstamped plan that does, so that this and the stamped plan both are acknowledged as being the plans of record.
And this also covers the replacement plantings on the adjacent property?
Yes.
Okay, so it's basically a complete picture of what's being done.
Okay.
Do any members of the commission have comments or questions? Do members of the audience have any comments or questions?
Good evening, Ronald DeShane, 86 Tadmuck Road. Matt, I asked you at the last meeting if you had a chance to ask the health department about the mini manhole that was moved, and I said it was about 4 feet from my property.
So this shows the, I don't know if the Board of Health has received the as-built based upon the relocation. Again, so the original location as installed was located on the property line, over the property line. And the redesign of it was relocating it. So it, I don't think that's, I don't know what was I asking, what was the Board of Health's?
Whether in fact they had put it in the right place?
Right. No, it said,
Would the Board of Health, so they would be doing their own as-built, their own review, that if they found that the applicant had, if they found the contractor had not put it in the correct place, what action would the Board of Health take?
So the Board of Health could, I can't speak to what actions the Board of Health can take. If it was installed in a location inconsistent with the approved plan, and again, that's what kind of I don't have the basis for, I have the red lines showing the changes that were being made. If this was, in a location that is if the installed location of this drain's manhole is in a location other than where it was proposed, that then becomes a deviation, an inconsistency with the approved plan, and the commission could, similarly as before, either find that it's, in substantial conformance with the plan, again, construction tolerances of, it's 4 inches off. Or if it's, relocated in a location that is, the commission finds is, substantially impacting, then it's, the commission could issue an enforcement order to kind of order the corrective actions. Again, I don't think, because my limited understanding of the septic design components, but whereas I think a poly barrier was proposed on the northerly side of the system, that they didn't need to have any offset to the components to that, is my uneducated hypothesis.
So your concern is the proximity of the manhole cover to the property?
I don't know, I'm just wondering if it's satisfactory with the health department, because they were out there a few times inspecting the work when he was cutting back on the piping, the 2 sections of piping for the septic system. So
I can check to see if they've received the as-built yet. If so, I can certainly get their input. Again, that's kind of, as that was kind of under the previous OOC amendment for, kind of correcting the encroachments and
The
kind of.
as-built really ought to have a survey stamp on it too.
Right, yeah, I think, and that's,
Absolutely needed in this
And
case.
if there is a material deviation that needs to be corrected, you're saying that we can issue an enforcement order to get that done?
yes, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And you'll let him know.
Yeah, I can certainly follow.
The only thing I have is an FYI for the board, is that all those, that northeaster that we had last Thursday evening into Friday, we had a lot of runoff coming down, and
Could you, with if you can show us where,
it would be on the other side of Tadmac Road with the culvert.
Oh. where the flow comes under the roadway?
Right.
It enters into this. So this is the drainage underneath Tabmuck Road right here.
Okay, so the culvert is probably right here, so that, I know you put in a work order, or back in January 8th.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm if anybody looked at it.
Yeah, Sierra had was the work order that Sierra had put in after our site visit.
Okay,
Okay,
what I could do is have my neighbor at 85 contact the highway department, see where they are on the schedule, because there was a lot of we had a pond here where the culvert is, backing up on our property, and then going down the street at 87, their driveway, it was about a third of the water in the street, so you had a good sized puddle there.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you had any drainage down in your driveway, yeah, over here. I
you
didn't
mean in
see-
terms of whether water came across the roadway and down?
Yeah, that's
the
happened in
80
the past,
Okay,
so that's,
So that's something that-
Yeah, I can follow up on that and
Okay.
Yeah.
see, again, if, whether or not it's blocked underneath, can certainly get confirmation that what was done on the subject property is done appropriately, and, if, check the drain going across to it to see make sure that's not blocked underneath the roadway.
Thank you all.
But yeah, they told me that they did submit the as.
Okay, I'll check.
okay. So we have comments and questions from the audience. People have had a chance to review the orders of conditions. Any comments or changes? Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I missed the last meeting.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Matt will be in touch about giving you the order of conditions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our 7:15 PM agenda item. It's a continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for 33 Kais Road.
Good evening, everyone. Chris McKenzie from Dillis and Roy here. Per our discussion at the last meeting, the plan was revised to show some at least temporary slope stabilization on the steep slope on the back side of the proposed slope, as well as along the forest main location line. We also added a silt fence barrier along the toe of the slope located there. And I think one of the things we did, there was questions about tree removal. There is some small trees up there. There might be one or two larger diameter trees up there. So we did show a proposed tree line to be cut up there as well. The system has minimum requirements for trees being on or near the system. And that's part of the requirements with the Board of Health, is that has to be maintained. You don't want roots growing into the septic system that can clog it up. The Board of Health did have a few review comments. Theirs were mostly cross the I, dot the T kind of stuff. Didn't really make any changes to the plan. Certainly you can go over those changes individually if you'd like. I don't know that there's a need to. They were mostly, like I said, they were asked me to add the buoyancy calcs and a couple other minor notes that they asked me to fix. But I didn't, there was no change to the plan itself, to the design plan.
Do members of the commission have any comments or questions? My only question was, so once the leach field is installed, you're just going to plant grasses to stabilize the slope?
For permanent stabilization, yes. We called, I didn't want to get too specific about
Yep.
what to use on the slope, but I did call for temporary slope stabilization to stabilize the slope while the vegetation grows, which is really a requirement anyways, but I put a specific note on there, actually twice, once on the forest main line and once on the breakout slope for the leach area.
Okay. And then it would be mowed regularly to keep down the woody vegetation. Matt, do you have anything?
I have no comments.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience?
Yes.
If you could come up and tell us who you are, please.
Abby O'Hara, I'm working with the installer, and we've selected a New England conservation mix for the seedlings to get that started, with the indication we're going to let everybody know it has to be routinely cut. So we're working on a combination of that mix and maybe some low-growing, fast-producing wildflowers.
Thank you. So people have had a chance to review the orders, they were in the packet. Any comments or questions? Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much. Matt, can you contact Abby regarding the order of conditions for her to come pick it up?
You're Abby. Okay. Oh, you're Abby. Okay. I was like, Abby across the hall. I'm like, why is that Abby across the hall? We're not Abby.
Different Abby.
Okay.
Yeah, not
Yes,
Abby.
can certainly do. Send me an email, swagger.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to our good night. Moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, it's an appointment with Bobby's Ranch about use of Emmett and Neshoba Brook Conservation Area.
I do not have an update. I wasn't able to make headways on this, so if we can move to the next.
Okay. Moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for Seal Harbor Companies LLC, 8 Rotten Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 28, 2025 at 7:30 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation application of Seal Harbor Companies LLC for a determination of wetland resource areas located at 0.8 Groton Road, Assessors Map 077, Parcel 0104, Lot 0100.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants, for the record. Here on behalf of Seal Harbor LLC. This property, the commission is familiar with the portion of this property, all of the work that's been going on along Route 40. There's 5 houses that have been constructed along the Route 40 side on the east side of Blue Brook. This is on the west side of Blue Brook. We are in front of the commission for Lot 6, which is where the little red house used to stand. Lot number 6, which is on the west side of Blue Brook. This is Lot 7 and 8, which extend behind some of the houses that front along Groton Road. There's 3 or 4 houses that go to the old access way to the sand pits, which is now Lakeside Meadows. We used to call it Pomelo's Pits back in the day. This is lot number 8. There's a wetland on the opposite side of this access road, on the westerly side of the access road. It was actually flagged as part of Lakeside Meadows. It is a certified vernal pool. The flags were updated by B&C Associates last year when we were doing the flagging of Blue Brook. They were very consistent with the original flagging. It's a very kind of steep slope going down into that wetland, so there's not really much room. It's a well-defined BBW. The sidewalk, Matt and I went out and inspected them last Wednesday on the 21st. There was no issues with the flag locations. And we're here just to delineate the wetlands and be happy to answer any questions.
Any idea what the story is on that, the utility easement? Usually I've seen those as like usually a path that follows along a drainage path or a pipeline or something like that. But this is just kind of a big corner of the lot.
Yeah, so lot number
I don't know if it's in
7.
It's part of 8, right?
7 is kind of in the middle, and that has actually frontage out on Groton Road. Lot 8 has all of its frontage on the access road. We're going to be filing with the planning board, to have filed with the planning board for a common drive to access both of the parcels or the properties from this access road. And what that does is it preserves about 400 feet of existing woodlands heading towards Groton Road, minimizes a curb cut on Groton Road, and puts the 2 driveways together as a single driveway on this smaller access road. So this access utility easement is just for that portion of the 2 driveways that is the common driveway. So it's kind of odd shaped, yes.
Okay, so it's more of a shared driveway easement.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, access, grading, drainage,
I know it's
utility.
not our bailiwick, but I was curious why there's a big square taken out of the corner of the lot. I got it.
We do not have a DEP file number that I'm aware of. Last time I checked.
I checked at like 5:30, you still don't. That was gonna be my one
So
problem.
you were happy with the flagging?
Yeah, I thought the flagging was certainly consistent with the edge of the wetland, and I didn't have any concerns with their locations. Before the next meeting, can you reach out to DEP and see what they're...
Yeah, we filed it electronically as well, so we've had bad luck with that lately for some reason.
And there's a little corner there that's within the 100-foot, right? Or this,
Yeah, you can see where the hand is.
yeah.
There's this little crescent shape that is within which ironically is kind of a dumping ground for this stretch of the road. If anyone's driven down that road, if you're heading towards Lakeside Meadows from Route 40 on your left-hand side, just as you go by that house that sits on the corner, there's just some debris there.
Yeah, landscape debris has been dumped. It was, we're working, based upon the site visit, mentioned to Matt, you know, whether it's, because the development, the stormwater management, the development plans for Lot 8 preserve the portions of the 100-foot buffer on the site, which I certainly appreciate, as it is a certified vernal pool, and, you know, we have the locally regulated 100-foot buffer to that. But, you know, as the developer was likely not the people, the party dumping the landscape debris and the Christmas tree out there. You know, I've mentioned.
It'll just get better.
Right, you know, clean it up, you know, and, you know, maybe a split rail fence and, you know, no dumping signs. Half of my concern with that is the two properties on the west side of said access way. One is the Lakeside Meadows open space subject to a conservation restriction, and the other is a parcel under the care and custody of the select board. And I wouldn't want to be pushing people from dumping on one side of the road to the other. So kind of a comprehensive plan is needed for it, but where the portion on the 100 buffer is not being altered, there was no intention to file with the commission for this, but I do intend to request the planning board consider a condition of approval, including language similar, you know, including language in any deed saying that, you know, portion of this lot is within 100 feet of a certified vernal pool, and any,
There are
you
no
know,
trees in that area, right?
no, I mean, it's more mature vegetation, a little bit of understory. More directly adjacent to the road is kind of a little, it looks like it was kind of a semi-constructed.
There are no trees coming down.
No, yeah, so
That-
within the commission's jurisdiction, exactly. But where, you know, ultimately the lot will be conveyed to a new homeowner, you know, having some language in a deed or something there to acknowledge that this is, you know, a protected jurisdictional area, and to not disturb it.
Well, and one of the things in looking at the plan and seeing the size of Lot 8 and the size of Lot 7, I'm kind of wondering, Lot 7 is an awful lot larger than Lot 8. So in fact, you are compressing that Lot 8 is significantly smaller than the adjacent lot, so you're actually giving the homeowner less, you know, that they don't have as much space around or on their site that, you know, in essence, if they want to do things, it's challenging because if they,
Smaller lot, right?
it's a smaller lot,
Right.
and if they, you know, if they're looking to do landscaping or screening from the roadway, they're actually, in essence, doing it in the buffer zone to the vernal pool. It's kind of like one lot is so big, the other one is so small, and I'm just kind of
We'll be
like,
back to see that, whatever the plan comes up.
No, but we won't-
Where the house is gonna go or whatever, and we'll keep it out of the 100-foot.
but it just, it's.
Too late then.
But the thing is if you look at how large, I'm thinking, you look at how large Lot 7 is, what people can do for landscaping, where they put their shed, all of that kind of stuff. Lot 7 has an awful lot of room to do that. Lot 8 doesn't have, I mean, it's not even technically a full acre. You know, they don't have room for doing those kinds of things, and it just, what strikes
It's an
me
imbalance.
is, yeah, the imbalance that one is been given a lot of room to have their shed, lawn, garden, whatever they want to do. The other one has less space, and if they try and part of that space is restricted because it's in the buffer zone to the vernal pool.
The way lots are all over town, different sizes.
Yeah, but it is different sizes, but when you're drawing, this is the time when you're drawing the lines, and this is the time you can ask the questions.
So the landowners decided they want to divide them up this way so they can get more money for one lot than the other lot, that's okay by me, and it's up to them.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, did they subdivide it this way?
They did,
They
yes.
chose to?
Right, so
Matt, can you zoom out just a little bit? Yes.
Well, then what you say makes sense, because I don't want to hear somebody coming in and all of a sudden it's a hardship because, you know, they have little room to place anything and they find they're restricted, or they're concerned about their inability to clear, or,
Yeah,
you know,
they're,
when we see plans for a
provide
house
some-
on this lot at some point, you know, a notice of intent, at that point, we'll probably put some kind of, or suggest that we put some kind of a barrier where the 100-foot buffer line is, you know, markers.
Well, there's no, so again, the develop, you know,
Yeah, now we're just-
the proposed stormwater management, the stormwater management plan as filed with the planning board did not show any clearing within the 100-foot buffer to the wetland resource.
so we won't see this.
So, and, you know, with any alteration, you know, including the, you know, there's no alteration proposed within 100 feet. So, you know,
Okay,
and that's why during the planning board, they, you know, as part of their open public hearing, we'll be submitting comments requesting them include language in the deed so that, you know,
Markers of some sort.
you know, some physical barrier, but also, you know, the language in the deed, so
That's
that,
good. I don't see a
Yeah.
problem with any of that.
and again, I mean, and with,
But Margaret's talking about better planning.
Yeah,
She says she has an opportunity.
I mean, but this is-
She sees what
Yeah,
can happen
it's-
in the future, and this is the place to try to
this
fix
is the
it.
this is the house that's closer to the roadway.
Yeah,
They're gonna have less space to give themselves a buffer. It just, yeah,
I agree.
that was my only opportunity to make comments.
to try to come up with a plan that's gonna minimize folks having to come back in the future seeking relief
This
from
is
us.
really just resource area delineation.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
all we're doing.
Well, but this is,
Matt's gonna be talking to planning about what
Right.
they can do and what
But-
they can do.
but-
Put
It's
markers
her
on
comment.
it.
but now is my time, since no work is proposed under our jurisdiction, this is the only time that we can offer comments for what they're worth. Because if we get it, you know, if we have a homeowner coming back to us and complaining because they can't do something or how restricted their lot is, we're gonna just say, you know, we had a chance to make comments and we did what we could and there's nothing more we can do.
So how do folks access this property? Is it gonna be off of Lumen or off of Groton?
so access to lot 7 will be off of Loon, or
So
the,
both, so it'll be a common drive to both.
yes. And again, that's, you know, looking at some of the math, you know, with it being the kind of frontage on Groton Road being 430 feet.
I'm happy with leaving that the way it is in the access. I still hear what Margaret says, and is there a better way that, you know, this could be subdivided to minimize folks coming back in the future and seeking relief from us?
Which we can't.
And that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's because, you know, this was, in fact, they will not be getting relief because this was a hardship that was created at the time of development. That,
Yes, thank you. I agree with everything. I like Eric's point, where we are preserving, you know, the stem or the access to Groton Road. I think Matt was about to say it's roughly an acre, if you will, 100 feet wide times 430, give or take. The reason that Lot 7 kind of shifted and got wider towards the north was they had a buyer that had an odd-shaped house. It's actually a really long house. And so it kind of drove some of the property line adjustments with what we're looking at today. Since we have filed the common drive permit, engineering had comments on where the utilities were coming from. There's Lot 6 gets its utilities off of its access from Groton Road where the Little Red House used to sit. We are going to be extending utilities from Loon Way Extension, so things have changed a little bit even since Matt and I met on the site last week. We were out there on Tuesday with the fire chief and the engineer and the town planner, and so most likely, even if it's for the utility extension, I would think we would be in front of this board for something. And that has just happened this week, brand new. I haven't even gone over it with Matt, so.
Okay.
Coming attractions.
Coming attractions, there you go. I should have had that at the beginning of the movie. But, so I have a feeling that even if it was for the utility and there's a water line that's gonna get extended up. But we will impress upon them that, I think Matt and I even talked out in the field that, a fence or something along this buffer,
Boulders?
boulders, something to kind of, get that naturalized. and
Permanently demarcate.
Yes.
Permanently demarcated, cleaned up a
Something that will
little
not
bit.
degrade over time.
I think it would be an excellent opportunity to kind of create some natural buffer there, where I don't think that is a very busy road.
Once the pavement is improved, it might become busy.
It might be.
Pothole city,
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's seen improvement in a while.
30 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
Their potholes are big enough to swallow your car. But, so I think if I had to guess, we would be in front of this board for something.
Okay.
Even if it's an RDA or a small NOI with limited work.
Okay, so at this point, we want to continue to the June 11th meeting, waiting for a DEP phone number. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 11th?
So we'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item, it's a certificate of compliance request for Martin 12 Woodbury Drive.
Good evening, again, Matt Waterman for the record. Here on behalf of David and Laurel Martin, who are with me in the back of the audience. We're here for a certificate of compliance for 12 Woodbury Drive. Woodbury Drive is located off of Concord Road, down where Concord Road kind of intersects Old Lowell Road and Carlisle Road, kind of in the southern part of Westford. And this is a 2.3 acre parcel. It's located at the very end of the cul-de-sac. It is built in 1994, a Bentley building. The Martins have owned it since the house was built. Certificate of compliance was never issued. The original file number was 334574. This was a common drive for lots number 10 Woodbury Drive and number 12 Woodbury Drive, which I think are 9 and 10, the lot numbers. And the commission actually saw and did a partial release for number 10 Woodbury Drive, which on this plan is on the left-hand side. I think it was last year, to release that house from the order of conditions. The work generally conforms with all of the notice of intent application and the order conditions issued by the commission back in 1994. There were some changes. They're kind of bulletized, and it looks like there's a lot, but a lot of them are minor. Most of them are minor in nature, or the changes were compensated elsewhere on the site. And if you, and
You want the plan or the
the
bullets?
plan probably for now.
Okay.
And you can see there's a couple areas where the existing, this was the proposed tree line with this dot dash. This was the hay bales and the tree line, and then it was supposed to go around, so they actually provided some additional buffer up here where they didn't cut right to the property line. In this area, they extended back towards the wetlands a little bit, but then this large area, the commission had approval to cut back here, and actually it's maintained as natural woodland. It's full growth pine trees. The Martins have done a really nice job of maintaining this property. There wasn't your slow creep or your cumulative nibbling. There is the shed that was put in place. Going over with Matt in the field, you know, I felt like the house, and I'll go through some of the other changes, the house was shifted. It actually is 4 feet further away from the approved plan. The shed is 39 feet from the wetlands. And then they did put a small chain link fence around the backyard. And this mulch kind of dot area here is kind of, it's not mulched, it's more ground cover like Pachysandra with the trees growing in, and that's standing, the house is to your left. The wetlands are off to the right. And you can see like this whole bed area, so it is formally landscaped, yes, but it is natural and
It's ground cover.
yes, it's ground cover. So it's not, you know,
Maintained.
bright orange bark mulch and like some of the things you see. And here's the shed where the area was encroached further. They don't keep any chemicals or lawnmowers in the shed. Proof is in the pudding, as the width of that door is only about 30 inches. And so it's just kind of tools and things that are kept in there. And then there's 2 gravel parking spaces. One is right next to the turnaround at the driveway, just to kind of provide one extra space. And then there's kind of a turnaround pull-off parking space here. The driveway was constructed, you know, not narrow, but it's having the ability to pull off here, I think, is kind of important. It's kind of a neat little spot to tuck it away. And Matt, I don't know if, I can't speak for Matt, but we felt like the changes, although there was a lot of them, we felt like it was consistent with what the board would have approved.
One point to add with respect to the shed, I did, upon receipt of the certificate of compliance request, and confirmed with the property owner, it was constructed in '94, shortly thereafter the house, so prior to the town's adoption, after the town's adoption of the wetlands bylaw, but before the setbacks as promulgated under the rules and regulations. And it, you know, and it still does maintain the 30-foot no disturb. It's maintained fairly well.
Any comments or questions from members?
Fine with it.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 334-0574?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Moving on to our 7:45 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of public hearing and issue amended order of conditions for Friends of Forest Pond and Littleton Clean Lakes Committee.
Hi.
Hi, Dave.
Hi. Dave Barr, member of the Westford Health Lakes Pond Collaborative, Littleton Clean Lakes Committee, and Friends of Forest Pond.
Since the commission's last meeting, we did receive the determination letter from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, which stated that the work, it was all bolded at one point. Oh, there it is. Will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of the state protected rare wildlife species. They state that their previous determination from January of 2023, which does require conditions, remain in full force and effect. That language is included as a finding on page DC. As the last one, and it's also included as a odd special condition as number 55, and I felt that was necessary so I could include the references to the special conditions in the original order of conditions and the first amended order of conditions. Special conditions 22, 45, and 46, just so that there's some specific call out to natural heritage and endangered species programs comments. As discussed at the last meeting, language was provided as part of Special Condition 53 for the Commission's consideration, and not to step on the chair's role, but if there are comments or discussion, this would be.
And Jim had done some research and provided,
It was an information sheet about dicot from, I think it was the Wisconsin.
Yes.
yes.
Oh, we got it here.
Division of Natural Resources.
Okay. So have members of the commission had a
And
chance?
remember,
Yeah.
Noel had also mentioned that this has been forbidden for use in all the European Union and the United Kingdom.
Mhm.
And I figured I'd get, just do a search and you find all kinds of information about it. Not a good chemical to have on people. It does hang around a while. There are alternatives to use. So this doesn't, the proposed wording here doesn't completely deny the use of it, but it requires that they exhaust the other alternatives before.
Or,
Explain why the other alternatives
Yes.
aren't good enough. Because the whole idea of this project was to use the mechanical pulling. And that's what's going to go back to, is mechanical pulling. This is just a temporary standing, so if we can avoid the use of it, I'd like to.
now, other members of the commission have had a chance to review the dicot information that Jim provided and the language that's here in the special condition? Okay, so no comments or questions?
There was some,
Discussion?
No, I'm happy to see this in there.
Okay.
You know, I share the concern, so.
there was some verbiage about potato farming, and that's why it was,
Noel had mentioned that, I didn't see that.
But-
yeah, sorry, somewhere in the notes, actually.
Or meeting minutes? Yeah,
Her
that,
minute, yeah, she mentioned that, but I didn't find
Anything about that.
that story about it.
So
okay.
it's just totally banned without reference to potato farming, I think.
Yeah, I guess it's used for, the chemical can be used for drying the leaves, which then kills the plants.
Okay.
And it's a certain weed that they use it for. Ours is in a water habitat instead of on land.
Right.
But it has different issues associated with it, none of them good.
Okay.
And one of the comments was they could use it just in Littleton, but I don't see, could see it spreading, right? It's in
Okay.
water.
So-
the means of these herbicides, when applied, are heavier than water. So while they are diluted with lake water to apply evenly over said treatment area, the solution is heavier than water, so it does sink and it stays general. It's not. There are certainly other herbicides with which are approved that have that do create a much more homogeneous concentration within, say, the entire water body. This, on the other hand, is dicot, and most of the other ones are heavier than water and do sink and stay generally where applied. Because again, that's the mode of action is it needs to be uptaken by the plant. So you don't want to be creating a full lake concentration. Trying to maintain a full lake concentration.
But it just, because this water body spans two jurisdictions, the Littleton Conservation Commission can basically, they provide the orders of conditions that are relevant for the treatments that occur in the lake within their jurisdiction, and we have the conditions under which we allow the work in Westford. So, they're different.
I have, now looking at 53, if amended, that dicot shall not be used in Westford without specific prior written authorization from the commission. Again, right now,
Just to avoid any potential,
right, so in the event that, Littleton is paying for, portions of Littleton to be treated, and and managed. You know, and if they don't see that dicot is, you know, if they have no, you know, similar concerns.
All they want.
Or if they went through this, if they went, whatever process they go through to say, yes, dicot can be used in this portion in Littleton, we would not want to be setting up something that in any way tries
I'm
to.
not trying to impose anything.
Right.
on
Right,
So you're-
and as I'm looking at this now, and again, you know, thinking back to, you know, other water bodies that are wholly within, say, you know, Westford, okay, that makes sense, you know, but where we do have split jurisdiction of,
So you want to further define it?
yeah,
Yeah.
to just specify, you know, its use
Shall not be
within,
used within Westford.
yeah, yeah.
And you're fine with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or shall it be used within the Westford portion of Forge
yeah.
Pond?
Yes.
Just, it's good, and again, because then it gets weird into other water.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All of areas touch each other and it comes anyway.
Any-
Dave?
Hi.
Hi.
Last night Littleton approved use of the herbicides and algicides and the dash. They had no restrictions on which herbicides of the ones that have been approved for use to be used. Dicot is used on all the other lakes in Westford, in Littleton that do herbicides. Jim was pointing out that we're, you know, doing herbicide treatment this year. We hope to be doing back to eco-harvesting next year. And we're continuing to do dry downs in the winter. We're next year going to be getting a lake management plan for the lake, the whole lake. And we'll be getting guidance on what options we have to try to mitigate the accelerating eutrophication of the lake. My expectation is that, I mean, none of these options by themselves are adequate. They all have advantages, they all have things where they fall short on. And it's a combination of them that over time, depending on how the lake develops, how the watershed develops, what at any given time is needed. So, you know, the current plan is to do some this summer and then go back to other things. But it's possible that in the future, we may need to, you know, we may be advised that this is appropriate for another summer. So that's the point of getting this all into an umbrella order of conditions for the eutrophication so that we can have these tools available to us as appropriate. I have a couple things I'd like to mention. So the EU doesn't, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, with what is being done under the Littleton order of conditions, is there going to be a follow-up report prepared this summer for the effectiveness? Okay, because I think we'd like to see a copy of that.
And I think that's included as, there's a special condition related to that. If, and especially if not here.
But is that related to, you know, how much, just in terms of, because we're two jurisdictions, is just, I'd like, in this case
Yeah,
specifically,
yeah.
I'd be interested in knowing. But yeah, you were going to make.
Yeah. It's true the EU doesn't allow the use of dicot, but like Noel was saying, it was, the concern was its use in agricultural settings where, and the concern actually was for the applicators that were putting it down. That was the group that was seen to be at risk for doing it. That said, they don't also allow it for use as an aquatic herbicide, but they do allow it in their food. They have minimum or maximum residue limits that are allowed in their food, and actually those limits are higher than the limits here in the United States. So that was the rationale behind it, and they, you know, it was not due to the toxicity in the aquatic environment.
Okay. The comments that you're making, is that based on a report or any kind of published thing that you could provide, provide to Matt so that we've got the details of it and what that actual source of information is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, is it just,
Useful.
yes, no?
So his comment was that it dangerous to the person applying it, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
how would it be applied here in the lake? What's the method?
I can speak to that as I had a past life doing site work. It's typically directly injected, so the concentration is mixed in an onboard tank, whatever the vessel is. They determine their treatment area, they determine the amount of product to use, they mix up a tank, and then they apply it evenly, typically subsurface injector, subsurface to the water, within the water so that it's not.
So like a big wand or something going down?
Yeah, it's actually kind of tubes trailing out the back of the boat,
Okay.
so that it's directly injected into the water, and you're not, unlike, what you're envisioning potato farming,
Right.
the big sprayer, broadcast spraying it, or broadcast spraying a mist. It's directly injected again, but with the intent that, the goal is to minimize exposure to the applicators, as they do have the highest level of risk, regardless of herbicide.
Well, and does that, if they are also the ones measuring the amount that goes into the apparatus that does the dilution, are they wearing protective equipment?
Yes, and again, these are all licensed applicators, they have to get a site-specific license from Mass DEP. They're all registered through the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources as a licensed pesticide applicator. In terms of, the PPE, on the label, it directs what the minimum PPE is. In the United States, the label is the law. So if, so you have to follow it or you're breaking the law. That's, again, that's them as the applicator, their responsibility, and that's, again, these are all licensed firms, they have insurance, they have all the other bits and pieces. Further down south, you could have, somebody buy a jug off of Amazon and do what they want with it, but it's a little bit more heavily regulated up here.
Okay.
But for the purposes of the language, the way it's written, other than specifying, to be used in the Westford report, I think this language is sound.
That
It's
there's
not
a,
prohibiting the use, it's explaining to us why it's necessary to be used and why something that maybe has a little less toxicity and why it's not that being used. So we're not prohibiting it, we're just wanting to know.
okay.
As Dave mentioned, that they will be, having a lake management plan a lake management plan prepared. Would that, again, by a consultant, I'm sure of, familiar, expertise, would that, does the commission, does the commission think that a lake management plan prepared by, a lake manager, is that, would that be sufficient to satisfy, if they're saying, to use diquat as opposed to fluoridone, as opposed to fluoroproxyfen benzyl, is that would that satisfactorily, comply with this special condition in years going forward?
I don't know, it's just a blank, they're just gonna write a paragraph and say.
No, I don't, I mean.
No, I wanna know these answers, those
Okay,
questions.
but if, I mean, but if,
But is this, would you, I guess it's, would you want to see this every year, or should, I guess what Matt is proposing is that when the lake management plan is crafted, a portion of it deals with this.
if it addresses, the 4 points raised, specific areas, the invasive desire to be treated with dicot, the other approved herbicides, and then why, the other ones, considered but not used, if that's a part
As
of,
long as all those are answered, yeah.
okay, then that's, so there's at least a kind of a path forward for how it.
But remember, the purpose of this project wasn't to decide we're gonna use chemical herbicides from now on. It was, we have the delay imposed upon us for doing the dredging, the mechanical harvesting, eco-harvesting, whatever you wanna call it. And that we hope to get back to that.
But, yeah,
That was what I.
But I mean, but the point of, an order of conditions for lake management, you're looking at having, techniques and tools reviewed and approved by the commission so that as necessary, it can be implemented without, coming back to the commission for.
That's what we don't want. We don't want it to be implemented without coming back before the
Exactly.
commission.
Exactly.
but I think that
And
each
I
time,
don't want to use the lake management plan that's going to be developed as a means to bypass coming before the commission to seek the use in, the lake portion that's within Westford.
okay, but it just, so I guess what hopefully we will get from the lake management plan is a framework for starting to deal with the evolution of the invasive aquatic vegetation, what's successful, what's not, it's, in some respects, what the plants are gonna do will be a moving target over the years, and I think this plan is a framework that says, let's put more of a plan in place, and there may be cases where, like we have here, there are certain aspects of it where we may want to have a further review as opposed to other parts of the plan. It's like, yeah, this is solid, you're doing eco harvesting, you're doing manual, whatever you're doing, there are pieces of it that are boilerplate, and there are pieces where we may want to take a closer look based on the factors that they're seeing year over year, what's been successful, what the challenges are. Marilyn?
I would want to see dicot be a red flag. At any time it comes up, we take a look at the review. In
Okay.
other words, it can never disappear, it can never get lighter through the years, because that way I think we would be doing due diligence.
Okay.
Doesn't mean, that we couldn't reverse it or whatever, but we look at it each time and see if we still feel the same way, and if we.
Yeah, and it's, the management plan may evolve over time, and there may be other chemicals that,
But
We
if you
start to have
don't want it to
questions about-
disappear, you have
yes,
to see it.
yeah,
Put it in your awareness, especially if the board changes or.
yeah. The institution, okay,
Well, and the lake management plan will also look at things like what could we do more proactively to try to, right now we're trying to deal with the plants in the lake, and the plants are there because there's so much nutrients. And are there things that we could do to reduce the nutrients coming into the lake to fight it on the front side? This lake has difficulty in that respect because the watershed is wicked big for the size of the lake. So it becomes pretty hard to control the watershed. It comes from Boxborough. To come back to, yes, we're right now looking at doing a one-time trial for the herbicides, and then next year we're doing significant eco harvesting treatment. But one of the reasons we're doing it's so big is because that is what we're hoping will be a real assessment of the effectiveness of eco harvesting. We've done it twice, but both times it's been constrained for different reasons. But we still haven't convinced ourselves that eco-harvesting is the silver bullet. It's, I mean, DCR, you know, Department of Conservation and Recreation says, stay away from it, don't do it, you know. And they say, definitely use herbicides. They're all about herbicides, right? There's a fair amount of information that says eco-harvesting does do a good job, you know, in the short term, but it's not clear. The vendors point to customers that, you know, have less and less and less year by year by year. But not everybody has that experience. And it's wicked expensive. I mean, for the Littleton side of the lake, it's gonna be $80,000 next year. We're gonna, at Marilyn's suggestion, we're gonna come.
I don't see why, I mean, I don't know, it will come before us each time, but I've been on the board 24 years, and I don't see that it is a negative to come before us.
So I appreciate that, yes, but it is like 5 times more expensive than, you know, I mean, drawdowns are free. And so anyway, we expect that we'll have to use a variety of things. So just a couple more things. Wisconsin DNR does point out that dicot has risks to fish and aquatic invertebrates, but they still approve it for use as an aquatic herbicide, even though even Wisconsin DNR, they say, you know, it's a significant risk to the animals in the water, but it's still approved. And there isn't, again, they cite the risk to humans as being the risk to the applicators, and they say there's no significant risk to people in the water, people using the water. There's no significant risk to the dicot in the water. And the, you know, other herbicides that are shown in, you know, the GEIR, or, well, yeah, the latest, the approved herbicides by Mass DAR, Department of Agricultural Resources, that are listed as being effective against Eurasian milfoil, which is our main invasive plant. If you look at the Wisconsin DNR's fact sheets for all of those, they all have not as high a risk, but they all have moderate to, you know, risks too, to the fish and the invertebrates in the lake. So.
So what I think you're trying to do is change your mind on 53, and I think we're kind of steadfast that this is how we want it to be applied if it's going to be used in the procedure. So we keep on going on about this, and I just see ourselves just chewing through time and not moving forward.
So I mean, so there was one, as far as I can tell, there were 2 points raised as to why this should be done this way, and no points presented as to why it is, you know, maybe more than needed. And I just thought it would make sense to present both.
Okay, well, and I think at this point, you know, the commission seems to be all agreed that we're not saying no to dicot, but we're putting in place
A procedure to
follow when it's to be used, and that gives us the ability to move forward and, you know, and let you do your.
Can I just mention 2 other things? One is you know, we talked about the other herbicides that can be used against Eurasian milfoil, and dicot is the go-to herbicide for that. It's very effective, and the other herbicides that are used are either not as effective and are still more expensive than dicot, or the ones that actually are effective are 3 to 6 times as expensive as using this. So if we had to use those, we would be, you know, treating a much smaller area.
Or you'll find
Yeah, but I think, but And I hear the points that you're making, but I think that's a discussion that we have when we have this conversation about here's where we need to use Dyquat and Westford. At that point, those aspects of the proposal would be discussed. I think that's not something, from what I'm hearing people say, that's not something we're gonna bake into this now. We're just setting up a framework to have the discussion when it comes time that
Okay.
says we want to, Dyquat is the
Yeah,
recommendation.
I just have one question. So we're talking about putting this condition in for Forge Pond. Dyquat is the main herbicide used on the other lakes in Westford. It's routinely used on Nabnasset, it's routinely used on along Sulphur Pond and on Kais. Just last week, they used it on Nabnasset.
Okay,
Um,
and, yes,
There are no reported problems with it on any of the aquatic wildlife for any of those. They've been using it for decades.
okay.
And I'm
And,
wondering why you're treating this differently
We'll add it to
than
the next
those.
time around, thank you.
What'd you say? What did you just say, Jim?
We'll add the limitations to that, to those.
So-
No,
well,
and I remember doing the one for now because I was chair at the time and pushed pretty hard for it and couldn't get other, there just wasn't enough information at the time, and folks at that time weren't quite ready, but I do believe that this is appropriate. I felt the same way back then.
okay, so we've set this up. If we issue this order of conditions, it will move forward. And this is an approach we're going to take. We're going to see, we're going to see how successful it is. We think this is the direction we want to go in.
Yeah, and even,
Okay,
I agree 100%.
The way it was explained, the intent was to get back to eco harvesting.
Okay.
And the use of these chemicals, any of them, I would be considering as a temporary measure. The plans that you briefed us a couple of weeks ago.
Again, we haven't confirmed that eco-harvesting is actually effective.
Okay. So-
That was the goal, is to try to do that, but you had problems with breakage last time, and this
No,
time.
the dredging
DEP.
limit.
And this time you had
DEP
problems with
constrained how much we
dredging.
can take out.
Okay, so, yeah, and I think this is,
It's how this board feels.
but it's how this, but also lake management, you're learning as you're going in some, is a lot of this is not anywhere near a final plan of this is the way we do it. This is coming with a thoughtful approach that says, here are the techniques, these are the ones we want to try, let's measure their success. And we just,
Let's see how things go from year to year, and what's
Yes.
appropriate.
so can I have,
No, I'm just saying, money is not the object for me. I
so,
mean, that's cuckoo, I can't even,
what,
that
but,
can't dictate it. okay?
and that
Not in this issue.
but that becomes a discussion when we need to talk about
Okay.
when there's a proposal to use Dyquat, we have that conversation with all the topics involved. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain.
Yep. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Abstention.
For closing it?
So, well, that's true, I can do that.
Okay, but anyway. Okay, so Matt will give us something to sign,
Good,
and you'll be in touch with
good.
Matt.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your.
And I don't know what the timeline is for us, in terms of, if you find that out.
Yeah, and I had 2 committees to talk to get this
But
in time, and I've got an engineering study. As soon as I get done with that, I'm coming back
It's not
to,
until the spring. yeah.
it's the fall that you would be, your budget process starts.
Late fall.
It's two
Late
times.
It'll be December.
Yeah,
Sorry?
It'll be about December. Usually is the needs assessment.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah, thank
make
you.
sure,
Yeah.
I'll make sure you're kept abreast.
Unless I drop, I'm not going anywhere.
So, moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item is a discussion and issue issue enforcement order for 7 and 8 Colonel Drive.
I couldn't finish the draft enforcement order for this meeting. It'll be on the subsequent. And I know we have one member of the audience for the next item, so.
So moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item, minor modification request for 60 Pleasant Street.
Good evening, Paul Campbell, Chess Engineering, here representing the property owner, Alicia Taylor.
Oh, I need to recuse myself.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so Eric,
great, so,
So I'm here for a minor modification on a plan that was approved about 1.5 years ago. Just to refresh the commission's memory, if we can go to the first sheet, yeah. So this is 60 Pleasant Street. It's a 10-acre property. Forge Pond is over here. All the work is in this half-acre area on the 10-acre property. And the project that got approved was demolition of this house, the septic system, this garage, and reconstruction of a house in a different garage and a different septic system. So I'm here asking for a minor modification because here in the existing conditions, the survey, we picked up the water service was estimated from water records from the town. And now that the site's under construction, the new house is built, the new garage is built, everything's built, this water line is actually 2 feet towards Forge Pond. So we had designed the septic system. Minimum requirements from a water line to a septic field is 10 feet. So now that the actual water line is a little closer to the field than we had estimated it to be, we had to move the septic field slightly over towards Forge Pond. So everything about it stays the same about the project. This septic system is more than 100 feet from any nearest wetlands. It's more than 100, it's 160 plus feet from the bank. And we are within 100 feet from the 100-foot flood zone, but no work is happening in the flood zone. So it's minor modification. Everything that you have restricted, tree removal, everything's been, I just visited the site right before tonight. Everything's going according to plan. And I have this septic plan's been approved by the health department, the health agents already. There's this note here on the plan. The contractor's still trying to figure out, because this is much higher than down here. They have a walkout basement. So we designed a small wall here. The contractor's still figuring out if he wants to do some like tiered walls or something like that, but nothing's happening within anywhere. So this is just there for any kind of more minor changes, but yeah. So
it seems acceptable now.
Yeah, and the reason I thought it best to come before the commission was the distance to the flood zone was being reduced from, I think, 40.8 to 36.6. So it was a reduction of 10%, where it's being close, but it is still outside the, it is a locally regulated.
Commission, have any other questions in regard to this request?
The wall is at least, it's about 6 feet.
yeah, it's about a 6 foot
Anything over
wall.
4 feet needs the engineer.
Yeah, they're gonna have
And I think there was a special condition about, because it gets, we throw it in because who knows when
Yeah, it's kind of that standard
Yeah.
condition.
you want a retaining wall. Everybody wants a retaining wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
At
We
least
want it to be engineered properly, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the only thing that matters for the septic system is 15 feet from here has to be a minimum elevation for breakout, but other than that, the world can fall off a cliff after that 15 feet. Doesn't matter. So.
Any other questions from the commission in regards to this request for the minor mod? No questions from the audience in regards. Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the request for the, minor change?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Thanks for waiting.
President's patience.
handle the next one as you. The next item was a continued public hearing for Zone Living LLC at 37 Powers Road, 334-1871. As they are undergoing some revisions with the planning board, they've requested a continuance without discussion to the commission's June 25th meeting.
I have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 25th.
So move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, as part of the open space and recreation plans update, the town manager recommended creating a standing open space and recreation plan committee so that in future updates, there'll be representatives from the pertinent standing town boards, 2 at-large members, but also will allow for kind of periodic biannual updates, twice-a-year meetings to update with respect to action items and kind of their pursuits. As part of that, the Conservation Commission, if there are any conservation, I would request a Conservation Commissioner volunteer to be the Commission's designee and participate in the public forums. I think there's one monthly while the update is occurring, and then, as I mentioned, kind of biannual, so every 6 months or so, just kind of a quick check-in with the membership to kind of see how the identified action items are progressing.
Then we'll jump up once.
Come on, Jim, this is right up your alley.
Open space and
Oh, that's
recreation.
CPA, so that's enough. Nobody?
All right, if nobody, think about it, and
Yeah.
we can,
Under consideration.
The other thing is, if not, maybe we can rotate or something, so you don't get.
right, I mean, and again, it's 1-year appointments, again, so, right, the benefit, the open space and recreation plan, similar to the town's housing production plan, are, those state-required kind of big-looking plans to make sure that we're pursuing that the town's strategies and goals, align with, the interests of, as identified by the state's Department of Conservation Services. There is the state does provide a workbook. Again, it's participate in the public forums and, monthly public forums. They are, the town's is under contract with the Northern Middlesex Council of Government to provide expert staffing so that me and Sierra and, are not trying to undertake this while, working our normal lives. So if anybody has any questions and want to talk offline, more than happy to discuss.
With the, when the time window when the plan is going to be updated, so there would be the monthly meetings.
Yes.
Has it been set yet when that starts and when it's expected to finish?
It'll probably be July through, I think there's 4 scheduled public forums as part of the workbook. So it would be July, August, September, October, would be the time frame for those, specific public forums to, participate, and, I'm sure there's breakout groups but again, I have not been a part of this process previously either.
In a prior life, I remember being our chair for meeting to get it done. So I'm really glad we have a partnership to guide us. It sounds like, at least for those first 4 months, it's going to be a member of the commission being there to represent the commission, not necessarily to be carrying action items from one to the next. So it could, especially starting with those 4 public forums, it could be a case of a different member of the commission being present for each one based on availability during those months?
I will check with the town manager, and also, again, our, the NIMCOG staff
Okay.
to see if that's, I think they typically find that it works better if there is a sole representative. Yeah,
Okay. Continuity.
Yeah, there is continuity from, one public forum.
You can't rotate it then.
Okay.
I don't think so.
And I guess some of it is also, are the other boards having similar challenges getting,
Planning board is the only other body that has met. One of their members just I needed to provide some more information about kind of the time commitment initially, and then, again, going forward. I'm meeting with Parks and Recreation next Monday, hopefully the Commission on Disability next Wednesday, and then the Council on Aging in 5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, middle of June.
you may have a better sense of how this is shaping up at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
So we'll continue discussion then.
yep. Okay, moving on to our next set of items.
This will be fast. 20 Keys Road, the discussion on enforcement, I haven't made any headway in getting anything out to them. Same thing with the Stony Brook Conservation.
Jim?
On the Stony Brook Conservation, in our contract, we're required to have the propane full by the first day of camp. I know they haven't used much, if any at all, but do we know if it's full?
I mean, the camp, I think, is scheduled to start in 3 weeks, so.
June 23rd.
Yeah, usually we make sure that it gets filled. We'll have them filled in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
That's,
I mean,
one of our.
That's our obligation. under
Yeah, no, I
contract.
mean, it's the same obligation as, making sure the fire hood, the hoods and the fire extinguishers are all inspected, things like that. So, I haven't heard anything from, granted, I haven't gotten an invoice from AmeriGas, I've gotten the invoice from the
They're supposed to have filled
impact
it.
fire.
At
Yeah.
the end of the camp season, they're supposed to fill it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how many people have actually rented the kitchen and used it.
Yep, that's one of our things,
May not need it.
it's on our list of, kind of things we get to as we get ready for kind of the day camp season.
And do we have a report from their operators for last year? It's 6 months late.
I can double check if I've asked, if not, I will.
There's things in the contract, specific items that they're supposed to address in this report.
I'll follow up with them.
I'm thinking ahead because I'm getting to be not inclined to renew the contract just the way it is, but we're gonna make some changes, significant changes regarding traffic and access and vehicle traffic, that kind of stuff. And so I don't wanna put us at a disadvantage in any negotiations. I'd like to, be upfront, try to meet all our obligations, have them meet all of theirs.
Okay.
But the other thing as well is, I think, and this came out of the site visit with SVT, is in terms of, at the end of year 5, if we don't intend to renew the contract, there's a notification date that, by which we need to let them know that we're not going to exercise the automatic extension, and I think we need to know what that date is, so that we're prepared.
I can certainly find that out and include it as add that kind of a discussion on the renewal of the existing camp contract on the agenda as a bullet
If
point.
there is something like that, that would be, I wasn't familiar with it, I don't recall that, but if there is, that's definitely something we wanna make sure we follow.
I'm sure there is, and I mean, my recollection is that it aligns with, when the contract's signed, with 5 years.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually kind of, I think it would be beneficial for the commission to kind of make a decision, have an idea whether or not renewal of the contract, by the end of July, so that, you know, as they're wrapping up camp in August, you know, they're either, they know there's a potential
We'll
that,
let them know as soon as possible, but we also want to get an RFP out if we want to continue to try to run a camp or have a camp operator. We're going to do that sooner.
And that's
rather than
going to
later.
take time to prepare the RFP.
Right. And it's going to require the cooperation with the Westford Land Preservation Foundation, or maybe
Yeah,
Sudbury
the-
Valley trustees, or maybe both.
Yep.
So that's not going to be a short activity.
I don't have any update on repairs from the Friends of EBC.
Getting the second
Yeah, getting the
quote.
second.
You don't need to get quotes.
Well, no, I want to get a second, I want to get a second opinion, you know, for, you know, is the cost that, is the quote we got for, you know, the repair of the chimney, you know, kind of,
Well, is
the scope of the repair of the
the
chimney,
scope and
is
the
that,
cost.
you know, is that what it is, or is that, you know, for something that we're asking the wrong, you know, we're asking the wrong questions to have done. I'll reach out with scheduling a site visit to Edwards Woods. Get that on the books for next week.
Now that the weather's getting nicer.
Yeah. Freedom Park improvements, regarding the demarcation of the property boundaries, I need to double check where the purchase order is, what the, whose.
Whose desk it's on?
Yeah, I mean, who needs to click approve, or if they have any questions, and kind of just move it along, get it moving along. And then that kind of triggers the other pieces as well. Regarding the gaps in the fencing.
Just for the smoke test.
Oh, I saw that the crushed stone was put in place so that we eliminated, or we mitigated the tripping hazards. Have you heard from the town engineer's office whether they've gotten whatever that smoke device they needed to?
Their vendor does not, there is an indefinite back, or I don't know if indefinite back order, or they can't.
Back order without date.
Yeah, they need to find a new vendor for their smoke.
So the town has no,
I think they have a couple, I don't know what they have, I think.
they're saving them for emergencies.
Yes, I don't think they have many. So I can follow up with them. I will be meeting with the town engineer tomorrow. So.
We think the town engineer had been out to see where the water was coming out through those holes in the lawn. And it appears that it may be related to street drainage where something underground has failed and they need to do further investigation to be sure they understand where the source of the water is coming from before we can figure out how to deal with it, because it's causing some erosion down into the pond.
Could be sewage.
No,
No, it's not. I mean, it's the
Stormwater?
Yeah, they're pretty sure it's just storm. I mean, there's no smell. There's no, you know, the nearest septic I think is 9 Pond Street, and that's kind of towards the front of the. It's not in the right spot. It's not breaking out as a typical, you know.
You went swimming, no blisters.
Yeah. Well, they haven't treated with dicua yet. I mean,
let's not go there.
come on. Open mic night. So, yeah, we're trying to figure out the next course of action for that. And again, you know, likely the goal would be to have that asked and answered before we kind of put together a plan to renovate the walkway from the parking area to the fishing dock, so that we're not, you know, in the event we have to do some excavation, we're not excavating to, we're not doing finished work to, you know, pull it up. I do not have an update on the Summer Village Conservation Restriction, and have not heard back regarding the Long Soffer Pond fireworks date.
So they have said they will give you a date.
Yeah, if they when they
know
commit,
it.
yeah, when they commit to the vendor. So that's, you know, we're waiting on information from them. I have not followed up with the trustee for the Jarvis Hill Estates, but can do so.
Have people had a chance to review the minutes of May 14th?
Yeah.
Any changes or corrections?
No, that's good.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 14th, 2025?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention. Okay.
No site visits to record. I'll schedule something. I'll take a look at the weather and for next week and see when's the least rainy day to get out to Edwards Woods to kind of see what's going, evaluate the conditions.
So if there's no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?